defence on that. Let's be honest, it's leaking 48 points, but they did score 64 points in reply. Having a look at the side, the other problem they've had is obviously at number 10, which where we see Auburn Ledger coming in there. But let's quickly run through that side for you for the Hurricanes. So Namir, Coles, Lomax across the front row, with Blackwell and Scrafton in the engine room. Princep, Karifi and Flanders are the Lucies. Jonathan Clementine will be at 9 with Ledger at 10. Your centres are Lomapi and Proctor, and out in the wings, Houston, Savia, and Geordie Barrett at back there. He's the key man for this team, especially as they've gone 6-2 on the bench with Amua, Arakiti Stones, and Fidel, your front row placements. They've then got Mitchell, Uosi, and Evans there for the sort of locks and Lucies. Cam Roygaard is your 9 replacement, and then you've got winger Vizina as the lone sort of back replacement. And he is on a debut as well. So clearly, the Hurricanes expecting a lot of minutes out of that back division in this one. So look out for injuries in the backs that could cause some issues for the Hurricanes there. Up against them on the Rebels side of things, they've gone Ulisi, Elof as their front row, Liotta and Hosea as the locks. Wells will be captaining the side at 6, with Kemene and Nazarani there in the Lucies. Powell and Gordon will be leading them around the park, which means that you've got Matt Tamua moving to inside centre at 12, with Magne at 13. In the back three, Corey Betty, as always, Andrew Kellaway is back from overseas, having signed, so it'll be his first start back, and then Worth at fullback. On the bench, then, Hansen, Gibbon, Sordoni are your front row replacements. Ross Haylor-Petty is the locking one, and then Hardwick is there as well. James Tuttle, Illy and Lamani are the backs replacements, obviously with Matt Tamua covering 10 if required in that one. Rebels coming off the back of that big loss to the Blues by 47 points. It was 350 last week. So look, let's be honest, I can only see the Hurricanes in this one getting up a big win. The Rebels really not at the races at this level. Going to have a really tough 5 weeks, you've got to think. Also, they've had that change of head coach as well. Losing their head coach at the end of Super Rugby AU. That's that instability. The stability we're seeing with the Hurricanes means I think we'll see a big score by the Hurricanes. Probably could be something like a 20-point win for the Hurricanes for me. Do let me know in the live chat if what scores you're expecting, or what your predictions are for this weekend. Yes, that's right, folks. If you're listening to this recording, or viewing the recording, or listening to the recording as a podcast, we go live. We live stream all of these shows for you on the New Zealand Sports Radio Facebook page, YouTube page. This one goes on Cormflake's YouTube page, and it's also on Twitter as well. The second game on Friday sees Western Force hosting the Highlanders over there on the far side. Now, Western Force, the Australian team that got the closest to a win. That conversion at the end could have won it, but obviously it was a miss. They also had just a solitary point to the Chiefs. Whereas the Highlanders kicked things off big style, didn't they, for the New Zealand sides, beating the Reds 40-19 last weekend. What does that mean? Well, the Force really have gone with a settled side. Tamanai, returning from injury in the locking department, is the only change for them, as they see Robertson, Katu, Medrano up front with Thrush and Tamanai in the engine room. Lee Warner and Kotika are the Lucy's. Tim Anstey moving from the locks to number 8 this weekend. Cabelli and McIntyre will be running the show, with Tafu, Captain Godwin in the middle there. The back three of Oliver Fair and Richard Kahui on the wings, with Rob Kearney at fullback. So yes, lots of experience in there with players like Kearney, Cabelli, Kahui, Jeremy Thrush, Medrano to lead that team around. On the bench, you got Reddy, Wagner, Holmes for the front row, Macaulay and Stander the other forward replacements with Pryor, Miotti for his 50th Super Rugby cap, and Strachan ready to come off the bench against the Highlanders. So a very settled side there for the Force, and similarly for the Highlanders again, a very settled side as well, with only one change to the starting team. That sees Bryn Evans come off the bench. So that means we've got Johnston, Dixon and Tokalahi in the front row, with Parry Parkinson and Evans in their engine room there. Frizzell is back from... sorry, we're blank now. Back in the side after his week off due to off-field issues. Harmon and Brenton round out that pack. You got Aaron Smith and Mitch Hunt in there, and with Gregory and Michael Collins again making that centre partnership there. Two players who have been played out of position for a lot of their careers, getting some time at centres now, which is really good for them. Nariki and Tompkinson on the wings. Tompkinson again out of position now. Didn't have a great weekend on the wing last time. And Gilbert at fullback. Off the bench, then you got Coleman, De Groot, Honeck, Dixon, Himeno, Hamilton, if he gets any time at all, let's be honest. Josh Ioane is back, as well as Punavai on the bench. So a bit of depth replaced for the Highlanders. Look, it's a long journey, isn't it, over to Perth? It's an 18-hour trip, as the Highlanders made clear on their social media. And you've got to look at that Western Force team that has went within a point against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, obviously, Super Rugby finalists in Super Rugby Aotearoa. For me, I'm going to back the Force by a point this time to go the other way. I think that's going to be the Australian win of the weekend against the Highlanders, who have been in good form with that big win over the Reds. But still, I think travel factor with that being at home, I'm going to back the Force to pick up the win there. Saturday, we have an early kickoff at 4:35, folks, so don't miss that game with the Blues versus the Waratahs. There, obviously, again, the Blues coming off that big win over the Rebels, the Waratahs, in that high-scoring game against the Hurricanes we've already talked about. And you've got to say that the Waratahs, like the Rebels, really not really at the same level as the rest. And you've got to say the trying to keep out this Blues team. I think the Waratahs will be in for a long old game. Carl Tuanakafi, Kurt Eklund and Tongafasi at the front row. Cowley Tuoti and got Josh Goodhue in the engine room. You then got Tom Robinson captaining with Kiri Ioane at 8 and Blake Gibson at 7. Across the backs then, Finley Christie and Terry Black will run the show with TJ Fiani and Rico Iwani in the centres, and a back three of Lamb, Sullivan and Heem. Sullivan at fullback there. Off the bench, Vakani at for the hook, and Hodgman and Retinar on the for the props. Patrick Tuipulotu coming off the bench, as well as Dalton Papilehi. Boy, a whole bunch of All Blacks coming off the bench there for the Blues pack. It's going to be a tough day, as I say, for the Tars. Knock and Plummer, and then finally debutant Ratu Mike Savakai Nippy Kippins, and I'm very sorry about absolutely butchering that name there. Look, he is a really exciting player, youngster coming there, and it'll be good to see him get on the park and see what damage he can do. For the Tars, then they bring Dempsey back into the side, and also James Turner as well. So a couple of changes for the Waratahs again. Another team that have lost their head coach coming into Super Rugby Aotearoa, and it's going to give Super Rugby Trans Tasman. And I think the floodgates are going to open, and we're going to see a big win here for the Blues. But anyway, Bell, Porricky, and Johnson Holmes are the front row, with Sinclair and Douglas in your engine room. Swinton, Gamble, and Will Harris are the Lucy's. Jake Gordon will be captaining from 9, with Donaldson at 10. Obviously, still missing their main man at 10 there. In the centres, then, Fichetti and Perezi. And then your wingers are Turner, Newsom, with Maddox at fullback. Off the bench coming up, Cotton, Faulkner, Breen, Jack Wetton, Dempsey, Tizano, Grant and Will Harrison. So Will Harrison actually back on the bench, which is good to see. Obviously, they really could do with him starting, in all honesty. But you've got to say that, the Blues should get that big win there up at Eden Park. Don't forget they've got the men's and women's sevens games before and after the game as New Zealand take on Australia ahead of the Tokyo Olympics coming up as well. After that, we go to Waikato Stadium for the Chiefs versus the Brumbies, and I will be at this game bringing you post-match interviews with the players and coaches. So do check out the Facebook pages where you'll find those. The Chiefs coming off the back of that 1-point win over there over there in Perth. They'll be glad to be home. Aidan Ross, Takilaho and Mafaleo will be across with the front row with Josh Lorden and Vai in the engine room again. Unfortunately, Arkoi is out with a neck injury and not available for the team. Liam Messon will get his start, 181 caps, wow, with Lachlan Bostier on the other side with Luke Jacobson at 8. Brad Rowe will be captaining from the halfback position with Damon McKenzie again at 10. Nankiville and Anton Brown in that recognised midfield role. Joan Lowe on one side, and Bailyn Sullivan on the other, with Chase Tia at fullback. So pretty inexperienced back three there. Off the bench, Slater, Norris and Molly, with Zane Capelli having to cover lock again. Look, he's not really a lock, is he? Let's be honest. Soakula will be his heavy running off the bench. Xavier Rowe and Poihipi and Caleb Trask are the three backs replacements in that one. For the Brumbies, it's a second game on the road. They started off down in Christchurch against the Crusaders. Again, had the opportunity to draw that game with the last kick of the game, but just missed out on that one. So the second best, you got to say, result for the Australian teams last weekend. We'll see CEO Longren and captain Alan Alatoa at the front row, with Swain and Frost will then be there as in the engine room. Stowers, Scott, and the hard-running Valentini will be the Lucies. Ryan Longren, whose brother is playing at hooker, is there with Lolosio. Will be running things. Simone and Ikatu are the centres, with Wright, Kata and Banks as the back three. A dangerous back three. Tom Banks definitely shows what he can do, and rugby league fans will know what Kata can do. So yeah, some serious firepower there. Off the bench then, McKinnery, Lloyd, Ross for the front row. Hooper, that's Tom Hooper. Cusack for the and then Fines, Lely Wasawa, Kuenzi and Mac Hansen are the replacements there. Look, I think the Chiefs will bounce back from that game against the Force. I think that it's going to start to tell the travel on the Brumbies, and so I'm backing the Chiefs by 5 in this one. But definitely a competitive and cracking game. Looking forward to that. Final game of the round sees the Reds take on the Crusaders, and if you were in any doubt as to what happened last weekend with the Reds, you'll see that they have 7 Wallabies returning 7 Wallabies squad members returning to the starting lineup for this game. So the Reds really last weekend was down to A, the short turnaround, and B, also the fact that they'd won the final the previous weekend. So it's going to be a different side here from the Reds against the Crusaders, with Zander, Panga, Mosu, and Tupu in that front row. Smith and Solakai Lotto are in the engine room. Wright, McWright, and Wilson, that good loose trio with Liam Wright at 6 co-captaining. McDermott and O'Connor, who will also co-captain, will be running things. Hamish Stewart, Hunter Paisami back, importantly. Sorry for... Oh dear. had to buy something back, importantly for the Reds, with Jock Campbell, Vunivalu, and Hegarty are the back three. Maffey, Hupert, Futakai, the front row replacements with Uru and Scott Young coming off the bench, as well as Thomas, Henry, and Doguni. So, a much stronger side by the Reds after that big loss to the Highlanders last weekend. They're looking to make amends. Unfortunately for them, they're up against the multiple champions, the Crusaders, who are naming a pretty settled side with Bauer, Taylor, and Jaeger in the front row, Dunshay and Whitelock in the engine room. Douglas, Blackadder, and Cullen Grace are the Lucy's. Drummond and Moonga will be running things. Cody Taylor will be captaining. David Havili will vice captain with Enor in the centres. Lester Fanuku on one wing, Reese on the other, with Jordan at fullback. So yes, a very, very dangerous team there. Off the bench, McAllister, Williams, and and Michael Alatoa. Strange will be the Lockie replacement. Hannah Havili, Tali Tui is the loose one. Hall, McLeod, and Mattielli round out those replacements. So look, the Crusaders, again, naming a very strong side, even if players like Scott Barrett are being rested this weekend. So he had a bit. He is recovering still from a medical issue last weekend. So he is expected to make it to the game next weekend, though that is also in Australia. So look, Crusaders got to be favourites here again. I think it'll be much tighter from the Reds than last weekend. So I'm going to the Crusaders by 3 in this one. So yes, I'm going for four New Zealand wins and that one upset, one Australian win with the Western Force. Do get in touch via Twitter at Driving More, where during the games for a good old chat. I will be live straight after the Hurricanes versus the Rebels with post-match reaction on the New Zealand Sports Radio Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Twitter account with the live streaming there. So do join us for that chat, and I'll try and get some other people to host the post-Blues Waratahs and the post-Chiefs Brumbies post-match reactions as well. Have a great weekend, folks. Enjoy all the rugby. It's looking like it's some cracking matchups here, particularly that Force Highlanders, Chiefs Brumbies, and Reds Crusaders. Those three are the main ones. So enjoy rugby this weekend. Hi, Jordan, who's just joining us now. Missed that. Go back and don't forget you can watch the recording on YouTube or Facebook, including Cormflake's channel, as well as New Zealand Sports Radio ones. Also, this goes out as a podcast as well if you want to listen to us on the go. So just search New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher.